How many moves is the quickest possible checkmate?
I actually do not know. Hi everyone, Valentino here. Welcome to, ready for this? I got the name for this one down, the Proficiency Box.
Wow, I like it.
All right, thank you. Here with my first guest ever,
Evan Rabin.
Here we go. He's going to teach me some chess. And you some chess. Us some chess.
All right. So welcome, Val. This is an introduction to, sort of what a premier chess lesson is like. And we're just going to have some fun. How's that sound?
Sounds great to me.
So let's just warm up a little bit. Make some moves. Don't even worry. Just make some moves.
Don't even worry. I'm just doing it. Here we go.
He's doing it.
I know that's a good move.
And, this is how we often get started. Just a little bit of diagnostic, trying to figure out exactly, where he is and, where he could go. Like many adults, he played chess back as a kid, really hasn't played all that much since then. Getting back into it and hungry for good old lessons.
Yep, I know exactly what I'm doing. Oh, hey, I did a thing. All right, so, haha, that gets that in trouble. Yeah, I knew that.
It's all good. It's all good. So, this is a pretty equal position. Black might be, a little bit better here, but...
oh boy, God, it has been so long since I played this game. Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. Oh my God.
So here's the first lesson of the day.
Yes, please.
So I just went here. Like the first thing you should be asking yourself is, why did I make this move d5? Right? If it was my turn, where would I go?
Where would you go?
Right, so I just went here, right? Where would I go if it was my turn again?
Eat my pawn?
I would capture your pawn.
Right.
Right? And if you think about it, how many attackers do I have on that pawn?
One attacker? Two attackers.
Two attackers. And you have how many defenders?
Oh, only one.
Right?
Okay.
So you better do something about it.
So I would move this guy up here.
Right, that works. What's another option?
The queen up?
Okay, what's another option? Right, what could you do with this pawn if you want?
Oh, I could just eat your pawn?
Capture. Don't say eat, say capture.
Yeah, that's from when I was 4.
That's
what we learned to say.
Right, which, won't be that great because I could capture back.
Right.
But okay, here's the thing, right? You always want to look at all of your options, right? Now, you need to decide, which is best. Take me, queen e2, queen f3, f3. Like, f3 is usually not so good because it opens up your king.
Okay.
Right? And it also takes away a critical square for your knight.
Right. Wow.
And typically, you don't want to develop your queen too early. This kind of blocks in your bishop, this blocks in your knight. So I think after all, this is probably your best option.
Yeah, that's what I chose third.
But that's why, right, you should never make one move in chess without considering 2 or 3 alternatives. Because you always don't want to just make a decent move. You always want to try to find the best move. So like now I have 2 ways to recapture. I could capture back with the knight. I could capture with the queen. The knight's already developed. The best option is to play queen takes d5, right? Because it brings out a new piece.
And then what I would do is put the queen in trouble.
So you can.
I could.
But, the idea is my queen just runs away.
Right. So that's just worse.
So one thing that actually a lot of students will do is they make attacking moves just for the sake of making an attacking move.
Right, okay.
Right? Because, does this position actually improve your position after I come here? Probably not.
It does not. It doesn't do anything.
And also, look at these dark squares, right? They actually become a little bit weakened, right? Which is a little bit of an advanced idea. Let's go back now. And I'm going to teach you basic opening principles and thought process. That's like the goal of today's lesson. So there are 3 parts of a chess game. The opening, the middle game, and the end game. How many moves do you think the opening is?
1, 3.
10 to 15.
Gee. Okay. 10 to 15. Wow.
So guess what? In your first 10 to 15 moves of the game value, you have 3 main goals.
Okay.
What are they?
Open up my pieces.
Yeah, right. You want to develop them, which means activate them.
Right.
Okay, what else do you want to do?
You want to set up for the mid game?
Yeah, right. But, all these 3 things are setting up for the middle game.
Right. That's fair.
So where do you want to develop your pieces to?
The middle.
Be a little bit more specific.
The enemy's territory. Oh, right here. These 4 spaces?
The center.
Right here?
Yep. You got E5, D5, E4, and D4. Center. Where is FedEx headquarters?
The center of America.
Absolutely. Do you know where that is?
Kansas. It's not Kent.
No, it actually is.
I knew
my
that.
friend Jim Egerton, who wrote Business on the Board, he lied in the book.
Really?
He said Memphis is the exact center of the U.S. because that's where FedEx is headquartered. But it's actually 200 miles away, and the actual center's in Kansas.
Thank you. I got it. Awesome.
Right? But you get the idea, right? Packages could go east, and they could go west. They could go north. They could go south, right? Very easily.
Right. Shortest distance to everything.
Right? Same deal here.
Except for Alaska.
Right,
Alaska's
let's put the
over here.
knight in the corner. Well, guess what? It controls 2 squares.
Yeah.
Let's put the knight over here. How many squares does it control?
4?
Now, let's actually put it in the center. How many squares does it control?
A lot more. Like 8, 12, 8.
2, 4, 8. Right? In the center, it becomes so much more powerful. Now, you can do that same exercise with any other piece but a rook, and it'll work out that way. You could put a rook anywhere on the board, and guess what? It's going to control 14 squares.
And that's why the rook is worth 5 points.
Right? 7, 7, 14, 3, 7, 4, 3, 14.
Okay.
That's why rooks don't necessarily like to go in the center. Rooks like to be on open files.
Open files.
Where there are no pawns.
Okay. Oh, yeah, so it could just go straight
Right, so
there.
it has more freedom. We got 2 out of the 3 basic opening principles. You want to control the center,
Control the center.
develop your pieces.
Development pieces.
And what's the last thing you want to do?
Ooh. The last thing is to kill the king.
Well, kings never get captured in chess.
Right. That's right. Kill the queen.
What's the only time in chess where you can move 2 pieces at once?
I actually do not know. When the
Castle.
thing does that, yeah. And that's a very good move.
Absolutely. Why? Castling is good because it makes your king safe. So we're actually going to take a step back. I'm going to make sure that you understand 3 related words. Check, checkmate, and stalemate.
Okay.
What does check mean?
Check means the king's in trouble.
King's in danger. So let's say we have this very simple position. How does white put the king in check?
With the bishop to
Bam.
here, right there.
Right? So what does checkmate mean?
Means that the king is out of options. It's about to get captured.
So kings never get captured. So don't say anything about the king getting captured. King is in check, and there's no way to get out of check.
No way to get out of it.
So is this checkmate right now?
No.
Why not?
So many different options to get the king out.
Yeah, tell me one way to get out of check.
You could put this bishop over here.
Yeah,
you can,
right. Bishop d7, knight d7,
the
queen
pawn.
d7, c6.
Yeah.
Right? There's many ways to get out of check. Okay,
Right.
so this is just a check, right? Check is a warning sign. Your king is in danger, find a way to get out. Checkmate is when the king is in check and there's no way to get out of check. So let's do something a little bit different here. How many moves is the quickest possible checkmate?
4.
2.
Show that to me. How?
How does black put white in check?
Move the queen here.
So 1, 2. 1, 2. That's checkmate. Because the king is in check, there's no way to capture the queen, no way to protect, and no way to run. So this is check.
Wow. So this is like the worst.
Yeah, this is called fool's mate.
Fool's mate. Just a bad moves. Just never do this.
Never do that.
Never do that. Wow.
Don't get checkmated in 2 moves.
2 moves. That's crazy.
In fact, don't even ever touch your F pawn in the beginning of the game, unless you have a really good reason, right? Some chess teachers like to call this Poison Freddy.
Is that what Bobby Fischer did in a game?
Well, Bobby Fischer was famous for playing E4, and he said best by test.
Best by test. But I thought there are rumors that he did a bad move in the beginning to psych out his opponent once.
Maybe. I mean, there is something to be said about trying to, confuse your opponent a little bit. But generally speaking, Fischer, did play E4. Best by test.
Best by test. Amen. Science, right?
So let's take off all the pieces.
All right.
And I'm going to ask you a yes or a no question. Black to move, of course. Is this checkmate?
Yes. Or it's a stalemate?
Which one is it?
So black to move. So I have to move. So it's I'm going to go stalemate.
Why is it stalemate and not checkmate?
Because I sense this might be a trick question.
It's not a trick question.
It's not a trick
Why
question.
is it not stalemate? Why is it stalemate and not checkmate?
Because I can't move.
True. But you're not telling me why it's stalemate or checkmate.
I have no idea.
So what's the difference of stalemate and checkmate?
So checkmate has to be when the king is in immediate danger, like right now.
Right, so the king is in check and there's no way to get out.
No way to
check.
get out. Right.
So why is this stalemate and not check?
He's not in check.
He's not in check, right? So I like to tell students as few words as possible is best, right? Check is when the king is in danger. Checkmate is when the king is in check and there's no way to get out of the check.
Right.
Right, so very often I teach beginners and I'll ask them, like, what does checkmate mean? And they'll tell me, it's when the king has no move. But that's not true. Because in the very beginning of a chess game, does the king have any move?
That's right. No moves
No.
whatsoever.
Right, so according to that definition, he would already be in checkmate. And the game wouldn't even be a game. Checkmate is when the king is in check and there's no way to get out of check. Stalemate is when the king is not in check and the player has no legal move. So right now, right, the king is not in check. I know it's not going to be checkmate. Is there anywhere for the king to go? No. Does black black have any other moves?
No.
Obviously not. No other pieces on the board. So this is stalemate. The game's a draw. No one wins.
Wow. Does this happen often in chess? Like, can this happen in tournaments?
Usually only with beginners.
Where like they just like capture everything?
Yeah, they capture, right? I mean, I've had kids get all excited. They get like 5 extra queens, and then stalemate. Yeah, stalemate doesn't happen so much at, higher level. Although there are some times where, even at higher levels, it might happen, right? So in this position, it looks like black is just losing because she's got a king and a rook versus a king and a queen. But in this position, black actually has a really nice move. Black has only one move that will actually force a draw. So look at this move. Rook f7, pinning the queen to the king, right? Queen can't just move because it would be check. Of course, if white just moves to protect the queen, well, king versus king draw. What move would white consider doing?
Take the rook.
But guess what? What is that?
Stalemate. Wow.
Right, so this move looks like actually really bad, right? You're just like, wait a minute, losing the rook. But of course, taking the rook is just a draw.
Does that happen often in chess?
Not particularly often, but I've seen things like that.
The crowd must go crazy.
It's a nice drawing technique. Like, for instance, the king was like on f3, with some tech. It's actually not even such an easy win if black knows all like the defensive play. But like, okay, white would be winning. Because now, of course, if like rook f7, white would actually not take the rook. He would actually like move his queen, would probably eventually win. So let's go back to castling.
Thank you.
How are you liking your chess lesson so far?
I'm loving it.
So let's talk about castling. Let's make some good developing moves. Develop your knight.
Over here.
Good. So you're developing a piece. You're attacking my pawn. I'm going to develop a piece and defend my pawn. Develop your bishop towards the center.
Here?
Best move.
Best move?
Right, that or this. Both are good. So now I'm going to develop my bishop. Now, you could castle because your knight and bishop are out of the way. So what you're going to want to do, move your king 2 spaces, and your rook is going to come right around. So take it back and do it again, just so you get in the right habit.
Is this what like chess players like always try to do? Like
the first 5 to 10 moves of a game. Now, let's say that all these pieces were out. You could do the same thing queenside.
So just like this?
Not exactly. You're going to move your king 2 squares.
2 squares.
And your rook's going to come around.
Okay. 1, 2. Okay.
Got it.
Got it.
Do it again.
Got it. All right. So 1, 2. Rook comes over here.
There you go. So there's other rules that you need to know about castling. One, only castle with your king and your rook.
Because it looks like a castle.
Exactly. Now, second thing is, if you already move a piece, you can't castle with that piece. So if you already moved your king, you cannot castle, period.
If you move the rook, you can't castle.
Even if it walks up and like walks back to the starting position, no, you can't castle.
All right, so it has to be the king's first move.
Right, and it has to be that rook's first move, right? So if you never moved your king, you never moved this rook, but you did touch this rook, you can still castle this way. And the last tricky thing is, you cannot castle through, into, or out of check. Okay, I'm gonna go back to the starting position, and I'm just going to make some good moves. E4, E5, knight f3. These are all good, like simple developing moves. Knight f6, knight c3, bishop c5, d3, d6. Now, this is actually a really bad move, bishop h6, but I'm just showing a point. So black, of course, if he's smart, what would he do?
He'll take the bishop.
Take the bishop.
Right.
But let's say he's not as smart and plays here. Go ahead and castle for white. Now, question. Could black castle in this position?
Could he? Yes.
So he cannot. The king is safe here. The king would also be safe here. However, it's not even possible because this would be castling through check, which you're not allowed to do.
Oh.
Right? You can't castle through check, into check, or out of check. And guess what? Even if it was possible, it wouldn't be such a good idea because white gets $5 and you only get $3 back. Right? So like, let's say we had, this position. Could black castle?
No.
So what do you think black should do here?
Black could move the...
Not what could he do, what should he do?
What should he do? He should move the pawn up.
Exactly. And a lot of players, by the way, would see, ooh, I'm in check, I gotta move away. But then guess what? You permanently can't castle. So there are 3 ways to get out of check. Capture, protect, run. The first thing you want to do is consider is capturing. Of course, you can't capture. Okay, so you want to protect.
Okay.
Because now, once the bishop runs away, you're probably not going to want to castle, actually, just yet, because he'll rip open your king side. But what you will probably do is play knight g6. Therefore, your queen is defending the knight. And then on the next turn, it'll be a very good idea to castle.
And then you would try your hardest not to move the pawns from the castle.
Right, exactly, right? Keep your king in its little, territory.
Save a spawn. Very cool.
Let's finish up by talking, very quickly about thought process. When I say thought process, I'm basically figuring out in any given position what's the best move, right? People ask me all the time, how do I come up with the best? Well, it's not easy, right? So I'm just going to set up any position to Carol-Kann. So e4, c6, that's the name of the Carol-Kann. When your opponent makes a move, the first thing you want to do, and in tournaments this is actually required, is to write it down.
You write down all your moves?
Write down all your moves.
Okay.
Right, so you got the white moves, the black moves. So this move would be d5.
Okay.
What should you think about next? Keep in mind, this is like in this position, but it could also be in any position. So when your opponent makes a move and you write down his move, right, what's something that you should actually think about?
What your opponent's trying to do.
Yeah, but not even so much what he's trying to do. On a higher level, you want to ask, why did my opponent make that move, right? And there are two other ways you want to ask that question. One, if he had another move, what it would be, and what changed about the position. So now that the black pawn went to d5, right? If I had another move, I'm going to take your pawn, right? Okay, what changed about the position? Well, these squares are now in danger. This queen has more space. Lots of things have changed. Given exactly why your opponent made a move, you want to come up with ways to respond. You want to come up with candidate moves. And in a given position, you're going to have 3 to 4 candidate moves, just like a multiple choice test.
I was never good at those.
Right? So given the fact that I want to take your pawn, what is one move for you to consider?
Moving the bishop up?
Yeah, right? That's definitely a move to consider, right? You're defending the pawn. What's another one to consider?
Could consider moving this up, but then makes the king.
Well, if you do that, that's not stopping me from taking a free pawn.
I'm in this one.
Yeah, f3.
But that will make the castling a little bit less effective, right?
Exactly. But this actually is an interesting line. This is called the fantasy variation.
Okay. I love the names, man.
So where could you develop this knight to defend this pawn?
Oh, yeah, right here.
Yeah, that's called the classical variation.
Classical.
What could you do with this pawn if you want?
You could capture that.
Capture that, right? And that would be an exchange variation.
Exchange. And that just happens quite often?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a sideline, but it's not bad. You could play this move.
Right.
Do you have any guesses to what this variation might be called?
The advancement variation.
The advanced variation?
I got it!
And then, okay, you could also play this knight d2 move, which actually just usually transposes to the classical. Okay, like those are all your candidate moves, basically.
Nice, nice.
Right, you could do something funky like this. You don't want to throw up your queen too early.
Right.
So once you did your candidate moves, that's when you need to look at each one in more detail and figure out which one gives you the biggest return on investment. They're all decent, but you always got to find the best. Like f3, okay, it's not so great at all. It opens up the king. Yeah. It does actually have its value, but it's not the main move.
Right.
E takes d5, c takes d5. The reason it's not so great for white is you're letting black from the center to a center pawn, right? And now this knight is more free to develop. So you don't see like a lot of top grandmasters playing the exchange variation. Now the advanced variation is very good. Knight c3 is very good. Bishop d3, not so good because after takes, I play knight f6 and your bishop has to run away.
Wow, yeah.
Right, and black gets some more development. I could also get away with capturing this pawn, but it's actually a little bit complicated. And of course, I'm going fairly quickly here, but just to give you some ideas. Therefore, this move and this move, in this case, are actually about even to each other. Now, when you see a good move in chess, right, when you know the move that is likely best, right, that's when you want to look for a better move. Emanuel Lasker, who was the world champion in the 1870s, he also was a famous psychologist. One thing he often said was, if you see a good move, you look for a better move. What should you do if you see a better move?
Look for the best.
Look for an even better move. So lastly, once you've actually found what you think is the best move, that's when you want to do a blunder check, right? You're double checking your work. Just like you would on a math quiz, you would, make sure that, you didn't say 1 + 1 is 2, right? Just kind of like a sanity check, right? Like, let's say you're doing this move, you're like, oh, wait a minute, I totally forgot you could take my pawn, actually, but no, that's okay, I'll take back. To review, your opponent makes a move, you write it down. You figure out why he made that move, what changed about the position. If he had another move, what would it be? Then you come up with your candidate move. As far ahead as possible at each one, figure out which move is actually likely the best. Then you look to see if there's any better move. You do a blunder check, make sure there's no silly mistakes that you overlook. And then, of course, you finally make the move. I know this was a lot of information crammed into a half hour.
Right.
Before we know it, we're going to make Val a master.
Fudge. Thank you very much, man. Awesome.
Always good to teach another Dwight alumni.
That's right. That's right. So, Premier Chess, everybody. Check it out. And thank you very much.
It's been my absolute pleasure recording this series together, and I look forward to seeing Val back into the chess world.